Don't put your hands on me again, sir.
Or you'll what?
Thanks, sorry, mate.
George Hathard. Glad to know you.
Not as glad as I am to know you.
You might as well wear the real thing. We can't fool ourselves by thinking it'll be easy to rebuild this country, Ori. It won't be. We've all suffered too much. But, in a way, our families have been blessed. And our friendships endured. So maybe it's up to us in our own way to start healing the wounds of this nation. I want to reinvest in our textile mill, Ori, and I want you to use the profits to rebuild Mount Royal.
Best friend a man could ever have, George.
We're a family, Ori. You remember that.
Hello, I'm Katie, and welcome to Retromade, your pop culture rewind. We are going back to November of 1985 for something a little different, a miniseries. And since watching 2 seasons of a show is a significant time commitment, my guests were spared the ask today. So you're stuck with me. Our everyman, Patrick Swayze, somehow makes us sympathetic to and even want to root for a Confederate general in the TV miniseries North and South. Dare I say few, if any others, could pull off such a feat. Now, this is set before, during, and immediately after the American Civil War. It's based on the 1980s trilogy of novels, North and South, by John Jakes. We're only going to be covering the first 2 installments, though, the 1985 and 1986. There was one third installment in 1994, but Patrick was not in that one. Plus, it was poorly received. So we're just going to be focusing on the first 2. Before we open the time capsule, I do want to sincerely thank you for listening to Retromade or watching it on YouTube. It does really mean a lot to me. So I'm glad that you're here. And you can keep in touch with what's going on and other fun nostalgia on the Retromade Facebook page. So head on over if you aren't already following. For example, I just finished a series of Halloween-themed head-to-head movie battles. I do also want to hear from you, so please reach out with feedback, what you like, what you don't like, what you want more of, less of, suggestions, etc. And you can reach me at RetromadePodcast@gmail.com. And just as a reminder, All of these links that I referenced throughout the show, the show's information, my guest info, and even a link to offer a tip if you are so generously inclined. Those links are always in the show notes. If you're new to the show, welcome. I am a nostalgia junkie, and I hope that you are too. Okay, now let's open the time capsule from November of 1985. The mid-80s were great, I think, especially like from a TV perspective. So the Nielsen ratings from the 85 to 86 season, the top shows, we have, of course, The Cosby Show, Family Ties, Murder, She Wrote, Cheers, Dallas, and Dynasty. The Golden Girls, of course. Now, this is actually their debut season. And sure enough, they hit the top 10 in their debut season. So good, you guys. Also, Miami Vice. Who's the Boss? This was one of my favorites growing up. I particularly love that opening scene with Tony's blue van pulling in. And it seems like it was fall too, like a perfect autumn setting. So he's pulling into the neighborhood in Connecticut, this picturesque neighborhood.
There is more to life than what you're living, so take a chance and face the wind.
Angela was like a total boss. She was a New York City ad exec. And I think she was even still in her 20s, maybe like late 20s, maybe early 30s. She with a super hot Italian ex-baseball player for a housekeeper. Yes, please. I do feel like this show sort of imprinted on me and my life goals subconsciously. So thank you, Who's the Boss? I'm still waiting for my super hot ex-baseball player housekeeper, but, I'll keep you all posted. Okay. Also, Night Court. And just a sad note, Bull, the man who plays Bull in Night Court, like the tall bailiff, Richard Mall, he just recently passed away. So rest in peace, Richard Mall. But so I think his most notable role was Bull in Night Court. Highway to Heaven. I vaguely remember this, and that's the Michael Landon show. Kate and Allie, which we talked about in a prior episode. That's the one Jane Curtin is either Kate or Allie. And I remember liking that show. I have some vague memories of that. Does anybody else remember Kate and Allie? Okay, so those were the top Nielsen rated shows, but there's some fun ones that premiered. So they didn't quite make the top 10 yet, but they premiered in 1985. We have 227, which we've talked about, Growing Pains, Small Wonder. You guys remember Small Wonder? What a weird show. There's like a robot girl, or a cyborg or whatever she is. She wore this dress and she had long brown hair. I can't remember her name. Somebody will have to remind me, but Small Wonder. And then Mr. Belvedere. Again, the 80s. So we just talked about Tony Maselli being the housekeeper of Angela, and she seemed pretty well off. But Mr. Belvedere, another show where a middle-class family has a housekeeper. This was such a theme in the 80s, and I was there for it. Moonlighting was also a show that premiered in 1985. I don't think I recall. I wasn't a big Dukes of Hazzard person, clearly, but I have a feeling a bunch of the male viewers probably were. It ended in 1985. I sort of assumed it ended long before that, but yeah, it went all the way until 1985. Right, shall we move on to music to set the stage for our North and South discussion? So we talked about Miami Vice being in the top rated shows on primetime. The theme, Miami Vice theme, was the #1 song this week. And again, when we talk about music on the show, the top billboards, it's the week that the movie came out, or in this case, the miniseries. So we're talking about November 3rd, 1985, this week. Miami Vice, the theme song. The number one song, that seems really strange to me. I feel like that doesn't happen. But the artist is Jan Hammer, or maybe it's Jan Hammer. Anyway, number 2 is Part-Time Lover by Stevie Wonder. Then number 3, this seems very 80s, Tears for Fears, Head Over Heels. Great song. Glenn Frey's, Glenn Frey's You Belong to the City is number 4. And the number 5 song, this reminds me of the roller rink. You guys remember roller rinks? We Built This City by Starship. For some reason, that is hand in hand with the roller rink. And I was pretty little at this time, but I do have some vague memories of it. Saving All My Love for You by Whitney Houston is the number 6 song. Separate Lives by Phil Collins and Marilyn Martin is number 7. I don't know who Marilyn Martin is. Anyone? I know you all know what the number 8 song is. Take On Me. The artist is Aha, which is a strange name. I should have looked this up. I wonder if that was a one-hit wonder or what else they sing. That was a good song, but Aha, Take On Me. Number 9 is Be Near Me by ABC. I think I listened to this. I wasn't familiar with it, and I didn't recognize it at all. It wasn't good either. So I don't know. Does anybody know this song? ABC's Be Near Me. And then the number 10 song is Lay Your Hands on Me by the Thompson Twins. I don't really remember that particular song, but I remember the Thompson Twins, some other songs that they sang. Also very 80s. There's some strange stuff going on at this time. A little all over the place. Okay, let's talk about what was going on in the world. November 1985, the U.S. President Ronald Reagan and the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev meet for the very first time. This'll come in a minute too. Microsoft Windows 1.0 is released. 85, huh? Okay. Do you guys remember that Janet Jackson and James DeBarge from El DeBarge were married? Well, it didn't last very long. In November of 1985, they had their marriage annulled. It lasted less than a year. There were some pretty awesome movies that were going on at the time that were released around this time. I don't know if you guys have heard of Rocky IV. 1985 in November. This is probably everybody around our age's most vivid memory, possibly even our favorite Rocky movie from a rewatchability perspective anyway. So Rocky IV, amazing. And again, there was the person who was supposed to be Mikhail Gorbachev in Rocky IV, and he ends up clapping for Rocky at the end. So we win the Cold War that way. But hey, also, if you guys are not aware, I'm sure most of you are, but if you're new, I also do a show that is completely focused on the Rocky movies. I'm a big fan, my favorite movies ever. So I join Ryan and Kyle, some Canadian. They're awesome. We have so much fun. And it's every 2 weeks. It's on the Last of the Action Heroes podcast network. And the show is called One More Round, a Rocky series podcast. Clever, right? So anyway, head on over. If you are not already, check us out. Some other big movies from this time in November of 85. Death Wish 3. Jagged Edge. To Live and Die in LA. A little movie called Back to the Future. Target. Not the store. It was a movie. Commando. And King Solomon's Mine. That was such a great one. I loved that. All right, so that was what's going on in the world. We talked about music. We talked about TV, what was going on. Hopefully, I have set the stage now for us to talk about North and South. So let's get into it. So this, like I said, this is a little different. Usually we're talking about the release date of a movie, but in this case, it was a miniseries. And you guys remember miniseries being really big? I feel like now, obviously we don't have TV miniseries now, really. It's really more of, would be like a limited series on Netflix or something like that, because it's 6 episodes per, they call them books, but it basically season. There's book 1 and book 2. And like I said, we're not going to talk about book 3. So if I talk about book, I mean season, book, they're interchangeable. So there's 6 episodes per book, and they're 90-minute episodes. So it's like a little mini movie each episode. And the very first episode aired on November 3rd, 1985. And then book 2 was in 1986. So we're going to talk about book 1 and 2. The director for season 1 was Richard T. Heffron. And the director for season 2 is Kevin Connor. These might not sound familiar to you. They didn't to me either. They have a ton of TV movie directing credits. So that's their story. And then the writers, we have Douglas Hayes. He developed the series for TV because, like I said, it was based on a trilogy of books. Douglas Hayes is also known for The Highwayman, Rin Tin Tin, McCloud, and the Maverick TV series. Those were from the 50s, I think. And then the novel's author, John Jakes, was also a writer on the series. And additionally, we have Richard Fielder, and he's known for the TV series The Virginian and 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. Okay. The cast is worth, okay, so if you haven't seen North and South, you got to, because the cast is exceptional, plus all the guest stars. Well, obviously we have our Patrick Swayze, and he plays Ori Main. Actually, let me jump to, we'll come back to the cast, but let me jump. I'm going to be a little out of order today. I'm going to jump to the description first, because that might help figure out the cast, because there's a lot of players to keep track of. North and South is a saga that spans over 20 years, and it tells the story of the enduring friendship between Ori Main of South Carolina, played by our Patrick Swayze, and George Hazard of Pennsylvania, played by James Reed. They become best friends while attending the United States Military Academy at West Point, but later find themselves and their families on opposite sides of the war. The slave-owning Mains are rural planters from outside of Charleston, while the Hazards, who reside in a small Pennsylvania mill town, profit from ownership of iron manufacturing and industry capital. Their differences reflect the divisions between North and South that eventually led to the Civil War. Now they find themselves fighting on opposite sides of the Civil War and struggle to maintain their friendship through these troubled times. It did win some Emmys. It won 1 Emmy and was nominated for several others. Primetime and Emmy winner for costuming, and it was also nominated for makeup, music, cinematography, editing, and sound editing. There were also 2 nominations for the Golden Globes. Leslie Ann Down, as well as David Carradine, were nominated for their supporting roles. Golden Globes. Okay. Let's get back to the cast. So we talked about our Patrick playing Ori Main and James Reed playing George Hazard. James Reed, he also played Michael in Beaches and Elle's dad in Legally Blonde, as well as Clyde Weston in Days of Our Lives and Murphy Michaels in Remington Steele. I did notice that quite a few of these actors had done some soaps. They're all pretty people for the most part. We also have Kirstie Alley in this. She plays George's sister, Virgilia. And Leslie Ann Down, as we just talked about, was nominated for her role for Golden Globe. She plays Madeline, and she's Ori's love interest. I just could not get over, she's just stunningly beautiful, like just stunning. Beautiful. And at age 15, she was voted Britain's most beautiful teenager. So she's a British former model, an actress known for playing in the British series Upstairs, Downstairs, which was then later a hit on PBS here in the United States. And I liken that to PBS is good about, like, Downton Abbey, for example, British show, but was on PBS here. Anyway, she also played Jacqueline Payne Marone on The Bold and the Beautiful, and Stephanie on Dallas. So she's just like super pretty. Also, she's British, playing a South Carolinian. There's another British person playing a Southerner in this. I find that interesting, accent-wise. Wendy Kilbourne, she plays Constance, George's wife, and she's known mostly for North and South, but also playing Devon King on the Midnight Caller TV series. I've not seen that, but I'm curious if anybody has. It was kind of long running, if I recall. Now, interestingly, so Wendy Kilbourne and James Reed, the actor who plays George, so they were married on the show, but then they also met on this set and went on to get married in real life. I love those little things. Next, we have Terry Garber playing Ashton Maine. She's super evil and a straight up sociopath, but she is one of Ori's younger sisters, the dark-haired one. She was also in a few soaps. She played Leslie Carrington in Dynasty and Iris Dombrowski in As the World Turns. The other little sister, so Ori is like significantly older. Like he's off to West Point and is, so whatever age that is, like 18, 19, 20, however old he is. And he has 5-year-old sisters, 7-year-old sisters. There's like a pretty big age gap. But anyway, so Jeannie Francis plays Brett Maine, the other little sister. And she's like the nice one, nice and sweet one, also blonde. And Brett, yes, Brett is a girl. I don't know. This must have been a Southern thing because the only other Brett that I know that's female is Brett Butler from Grace Under Fire. Anybody watch that show? Anyway, I would also like to point out that this is very typical. So the nice, sweet blonde one, and then the evil, dark-haired one. Go figure. And then we have Philip Kasnoff playing Elkanah Bent. And he is Ori and George's nemesis. You guys ever heard of the name Elkanah before? I have not. Maybe this is like a Southern thing or an old-timey thing. He's mostly referred to as just Bent, his last name, or L, E-L. But so Philip Kasnoff, the man who plays him, he also played Frank Sinatra in the TV miniseries Sinatra. He was also the chief of staff in the Strong Medicine TV series, which I'm not familiar with. But you will have heard of this probably. Who watched the TV series Oz? Really good. He played Nikolai Stanislavski in that show. So that's maybe where you would know Philip Kasnoff from. I know there's like a ton of characters, so please stay with me, you guys, because these are all the main cast. There's a lot. Like it's a saga. It spans over 20 years. And so there's a lot of characters. We have Lewis Smith playing Charles Maine, Ori's cousin. He's known for his roles in The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, Southern Comfort, and Wyatt Earp. Now, Lewis Smith plays Charles in only the first season the first 2 seasons. Apparently, like I said, I didn't watch the third one, but apparently Kyle Chandler takes over the role in the 3rd installment in 94. And you all recognize Kyle Chandler. We have John Stockwell playing Billy Hazard, George's younger brother. He's known for playing Cougar in Top Gun and Dennis in John Carpenter's Christine. So he's a very familiar actor. He was only in the 1st installment as Billy, and he was replaced in the 2nd season by Parker Stevenson, the Hardy Boy. And he was also married at the time to Kirstie Alley, who plays Virgilia in the show. There's a lot of that, which we'll get to, but it's fun. I love all the relationships that kind of stem from the show. You all know who David Carradine is. I assume so. He's like really good at playing like an evil bad guy. He plays Justin Lamott, the sadistic husband of Madeline. And then we have Jean Simmons, Jean Simmons, so a woman. She plays Ori's mother, Clarissa Maine. And she's another Brit, known for her roles in Guys and Dolls, Spartacus, and Hamlet. And then George's mother, Maud Hazard, is played by Inga Swenson. And I think you guys might recognize her. She, if anybody watched the show Benson, she's known for her role in that, playing Miss Gretchen Wilhelmina Krauss. And apparently, so that's a German person. She's not German, but apparently she played that role so well that people thought she was German. She was also played Ingrid in the TV show Soap. And then I recognized her because she's in an episode of The Golden Girls as Rose's sister Holly. Then we have just a couple more. Olivia Cole as Mom Sally. I don't know if it's M-A-U-M. It's pronounced Mom Sally, but I don't know if it's Mom. Not really sure, but she plays Madeline's lady's maid. Yeah, that's like her right-hand person. I think that's called lady's maid. She's known for her Emmy-winning role as Matilda in another very famous miniseries called Roots. Anybody? Yeah, she won an Emmy for that. And she also played Miss Sophie in Brewster Place TV series. And then we have yet another stunning beauty, Erica Gimple. She played Semiramis, a very strange name, Semiramis. And she's known for playing Coco in Fame. And she has tons of other TV credits. She's a familiar face at any rate. Like, she played Trish from God Friended Me, Detective Harriet Morrow in The Young and the Restless. And she was in a recurring role in ER as Adele Newman, Angel Brown in Profiler. So that's Erica Gimple. And then rounding out kind of our main cast is Jim Metzler. And he plays James Huntoon, Ashton's husband. He's in a ton of stuff also, but nothing super recognizable. So that's our main cast. Now, I think partly a reason to watch this too is everybody wanted to be in this TV show, or this miniseries, sorry. The guest stars are out of this world. Like literally everyone. Like the most Forrest Whitaker, a young, very young Forrest Whitaker, Morgan Fairchild, Elizabeth Taylor, James Stewart. I think this was actually his last role, James Stewart. Linda Evans, Wayne Newton, Hal Holbrook. Hal Holbrook played President Lincoln in this. We also have Johnny Cash, Ron O'Neill, Kurtwood Smith, Lloyd Bridges, Nancy Marchand, Robert Mitchum, Gene Kelly, James Reborn, Robert Gulliam. He's Benson. That's who. Am I saying it right? Gulliam. Someone help me out. But anyway, he plays Benson. That's who he is. And then Olivia de Havilland. So those are like, there's tons of other ones too, but those are the ones that I thought you guys resonate most with. And then I have to call out the score. It's Bill Conti. I didn't know that until I'm rewatching it. The Academy Award winner from Rocky, Bill Conti. And I will say just on that point, and maybe it's because I knew it was Bill Conti, but there were a few times that I'm like, oh, that's very Rocky-esque. You know, that just the style of Bill Conti. So the cast and the guest stars, like I said, it's amazing. Everybody wanted to be a part of this. Now, usually I talk about like the budget and the box office, but obviously this being a TV miniseries, that's not really the case. But I did read that the production took 2 years and $25 million. I'm not sure if that 2 years was just for book 1 or if it was for the first 2 books. I kind of think book 1, it took 2 years. I mean, it's a period piece, like all the costuming, all the sets, all the, I just feel like, yeah, getting all of those people aligned, there's a lot to do for a project of this caliber. So yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. Now, if you're wondering how you can watch this, like I was jazzed because I found some streamer. I was like, sweet, it's on this streamer. It's not. It shows the artwork and all of the details of the 1985 version with, the cast and everything. And like I said, the artwork of it, but you press play. It took me a minute to be like, because I hadn't seen it in a while. So I was like, oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe this is the setup to get to where we are in the Civil War era. No. It's actually the 2004 remake, which is a British version of this. So whatever streamer this is, I can't remember which one it was. They loaded the wrong version in error. Now, how I did watch this is I requested it from my handy dandy library. Libraries are awesome, people. Use them. Mine's a historic building, so it's pretty cool. Anyway, I go there all the time. And so I requested these DVDs. I do everything online. There's a portal. And I do this if time allows, and I'm like either covering a movie for the show or I'm guesting on someone else's show and I can't find the movie on a streamer or it's one that I don't have a subscription to. If time allows, I will request the DVD from the library. It takes a minute because they usually have to get it from another library and then delivered, and then it's on the hold shelf waiting for me. So that's how I watch this. Library DVDs, guys. I hadn't seen it since the 90s, and that's probably the only time I saw it. I do not think that I watched it when it was originally on ABC, its first run in the mid-80s. But I remember it vividly because we watched it in history class when we were covering the Civil War. Shout out to Mrs. Cush. I don't remember if it was like when you learn about the Civil War here, 8th grade, 10th grade. I can't really remember, but I do. We obviously didn't watch the whole thing because it's crazy long, but I do remember watching it. And just on that point, it was the best when they rolled the TV in. Like there was like a cart with a big square box TV strapped to this cart with the VCR, not even a DVD, but the VCR rolled into your classroom. You knew you were in for a treat. Didn't have to do anything. Just kick back. I loved that. So thanks, Mrs. Cush. All right. So North and South, like I said, it spans like 20 years. We open in 1842 on Mont Royal Plantation as Ori is about to head off to West Point. And Ori and George meet so Ori is now in New York about to catch a train to West Point. And he gets in a fight with people there. And that's how they meet. George steps in to help Ori. And they're instant friends from then on, even though they come from different worlds. Like I said, Ori's from South Carolina and George is from Pennsylvania. So North and South. They come from different worlds and have extremely different viewpoints on important matters of the day. So they're at odds a lot. But like I said, this is the enduring friendship story. Probably the best enduring friendship story I've ever seen. It's pretty good. Now, you have to hate some people because, well, there's a lot to hate about just this time period. But there are 4 characters that I wanted to point out in particular that, I don't know about you guys, but I like when you despise something or someone, like somebody says something so despicable or they're so unlikable, you like turn your nose. Like I literally squint my eyes. Do you guys do that too? Anyway, there's 4 characters that I squinty eye at. Ashton Maine, the dark-haired little sister of Ori. She is she's a sociopath. Even like, because we see her as a little girl and she's just a mean little bitch just for the fun of it throughout this. So we hate her. We hate her. So good job for, what is her name? Terry Garber. Good acting, Terry. Actually, all of these actors, good job acting because I buy it. I bought it. Like, I hated these people. The other one, another one is Justin Lamotte. So he's David Carradine's character, who is just good at playing like super skis villains. So originally, Justin Lamotte, we're shown him to be Madeline's father's friend, but then he's totally angling. It's gross, right? Because he's like her dad's age, but that's just the way that it was apparently. So he's angling because he wants to marry her, and she does at the behest of her father. Marries this Justin Lamotte, even though she's in love with Ori. Justin is just vile. Like, again, like I said, like squinty eye at him. He has this predatory vibe, people like that. And he proves out because he rapes his own wife because she's unwilling. And he says things like, know your place. A mind seems hardly necessary when one has the face of an angel. Ew. Like, he purposely gets his wife addicted to laudanum, which it's like totally a thing up this time. It's basically opium, just to keep her in line. Like, I need her to be more, to know your place, be just happy and pleasant and have no brain. So that he gets her hooked to opium. Mm-hmm. He also beats his slaves and wants to secede from the Union. So he has zero redeeming qualities, this Justin. Additionally, on the same vein, Salem Jones, ew. He's just gross and slovenly to look at in the first place. So who he is in this is, first of all, that's a great name, Salem Jones, but he's a shit character. He is hired by Ori's father as like an overseer of the plantation or of the slaves because Ori's father is probably getting up there in age and Ori's off at West Point. So he needs somebody to, I don't know, handle things. So this Salem Jones guy is hired and he is a disgusting excuse for a human being. He takes pleasure in beating and raping the slaves. And like I said, he's just like gross and slovenly to look at too. And then our final like super irredeemable person is Elkanah Bent. Now, this guy, right, great acting because he gives off this major like spoiled little rich kid throwing a tantrum energy. So picture that type of person. We all know them. There's some famous ones in power. He is just like this ego tripping, when we first meet him anyway, ego tripping West Point instructor with George and Ori. I think he's an instructor, either that or he's like a class or two ahead of Ori and George and gets real pissy because Ori shows him up. And just like I said, he's just like spoiled little rich kid energy. It's gross. And then later in the show, he goes on to plot against his own side, which is the South, to overthrow he's like trying to overthrow their President Jefferson Davis. So that's who Elkanah Bent is. He's he's just constantly scheming. He uses women left and right. Yeah, he ends up having an affair with Ori's sister, the sociopathic one, Ashton. So they scheme together. So that's who they are. So those people are irredeemable. Just kind of setting the stage for that. Then we're kind of shown after West Point, then there's the war with Mexico. And Ori gets injured. So this is 1847. He gets injured there. And then for the whole rest of the series, he like limps and he walks with a cane. So for the rest of his life. And we see George and Ori go into business together using iron from George's mill to run a cotton mill in South Carolina. So this is kind of that's not really been done before, is to have their own mill in South Carolina. So they go into business together on one condition: no slave labor. Now we talked about Billy and Charles. So George's little brother Billy and Charles, Ori's cousin. So, after a certain period of time, they are now kind of the new generation at West Point. They're best friends in West Point together. And, by this time, we see that the families, the Mains and the Hazards, they've grown to be pretty close. They visit each other pretty often in Pennsylvania and South Carolina. And this is like horse and buggy, not the next state over. I mean, it's a whole ordeal. So they go to visit and stay for a long time. So the families are very close now. In fact, Billy, who is a northerner, Pennsylvania, ends up marrying Brett from South Carolina. Brett, again, just as a reminder, is Ori's little sister, the blonde, nice one. And that ends up causing issues for them, as you could imagine. We have a married couple, North and South. So during the Civil War, and we see them run into this kind of thing quite often. If you're in South Carolina, a Yankee, or if you're in North, how dare you marry a Southerner? So vice versa. And then George marries Constance. And like I said, so they're Northerners and they're against slavery, obviously. And George's wife even keeps a room in their house for escapees on the Underground Railroad. So that's pretty cool. They're in Pennsylvania and they're very well to do, obviously. So, yes. Now, there are scenes where both Ori and George, they're best friends from different sides. And then Billy and Charles, the younger generation, best friends from different sides. In both cases, they come face to face in battle on opposite sides. So that's that's really interesting that we see that in this series and how they handle that, because they're supposed to fight each other, but obviously they're not going to kill their best friends. So we see them in many instances kind of make exceptions, and we see them, while on the whole are fighting against the other side. The reality is they see them, it's the humanity in their friendship. And if you see somebody as an individual, it's very different than, just the other side. It's like, you might be on the other side, but you're still my best friend. And I see good in you, even though we differ in our viewpoints. So that is a theme that is throughout the whole series. And that's kind of the beautiful part of the series, in my opinion, because there's a lot to dislike about just that time period in our history, right? The other thing that I don't recall, I do not remember this. I didn't know this was a thing at all. This is historical fiction, but I think, it's historical fiction. So I'm kind of assuming that this was actually the case in some cases, but there were field hospitals. I'm sure we've all learned all about the field hospitals and read books. I mean, just the horrors that happened at this level of fighting, where it's like, I don't know if it's a musket or a rifle, but it's those guns with there's a name for them, like the sword thing on the end. Shoot, the name is escaping me, you guys. What's the name of those gun things? Anyway, so that's what they're fighting with. And there's just these two sides marching towards each other, shooting and stabbing each other. That's the level of war. There were some cannons too, but it just, the ugliness of that and the sheer bloody, brutal nature of it is on full display. That's just how they fought then. But so there were these field hospitals trying to do what they could, and tons of limb loss. We actually see a scene where Virgilia, later in the series, is a nurse. She joins the nurses corps, and she's in these field hospitals, and she's put in a number of precarious situations. But they were shown the way that they, if somebody they're either going to bleed out, or they put this clamp on a limb. So basically to lose the limb, but so that the person doesn't bleed out. And it's just gross. This kind of stuff gives me the heebie-jeebies. So anyway, I didn't know that these field hospitals treated both sides. or maybe they didn't all, but what we're shown is this particular field hospital that she volunteers at or works at. I think maybe she does get paid, but they have to treat both sides. So they can't favor either the North or the South. They have to treat soldiers from the Confederacy and the Union. And so as I was mentioning Virgilia, who she's super outspoken. This is Kirstie Alley's character. She's George's sister. She's very outspoken. I just love this is probably who I would be, because like at this time, like I wouldn't just be in my place. I'm very opinionated and like I am now, like things that are so obvious to me that are immoral or wrong. But it, just because something is a societal norm, like in this case, slavery was, doesn't make it right. And she points that out. And everybody's like, okay, like simmer down, Virgilia, like, women know your place, blah, blah. But she doesn't. And I love that. She, in fact, is so outspoken. She, even as a woman, she goes to, she's joining this abolitionist movement and gives speeches. And so she's kind of well known. Well, she ends up helping escape Grady, a slave from, I think, South Carolina. Anyway, they go up north, they get married. Like this is in the 1800s. So but unfortunately, he dies. He gets killed. So after that, she joins the nurses' choir. And she hates, we've seen over time, because their families are friends, but she and Ori are always at odds. They're always kind of at each other. So she really despises Ori's way of life, but he ends up at her field hospital and, she's able to put that aside. She knows him personally. It's her brother's best friend, and it is her duty as this nurse. So she treats him at the hospital because she kind of has to, but then he's a general by this time. So both, many years have passed so we're in the Civil War. That's like 20 years after we first meet them at West Point. And they're both generals now on opposite sides, which is a huge deal, right? So Ori is at this hospital and they want to keep him. They want to make sure that once he's well enough, like once he's treated, that they can take him as a prisoner. And so Virgilia, even though she despises him, kind of, she treats him at the hospital and helps him escape before he's taken to the prisoner camp. So Virgilia is a really, really interesting character in this, and she has a sad outcome. I won't spoil it in case anybody wants to watch, but Virgilia is a great character. Also, just wanted to point out Kirstie Alley. This is 1985, Kirstie Alley. She's beautiful. She's just, she looks really good, Kirstie Alley, in this. So, the South does end up surrendering, as we know. But even prior to that, I don't know, I guess I don't recall the order of things, but before the South surrendered, Lincoln, his Emancipation Proclamation, I can't remember the timing of it, but it was before the South surrendered at any rate. So many of the slaves are getting word of this, and so they can leave. Like they now are free to leave if they want to. We do see in some cases like Ezra and Semiramis, who were slaves at Mont Royal at the Mains. The Mains were quote unquote nice to their slave. Like they weren't brutal like we see a lot. I mean, it's those things shouldn't go in the same sentence, but they sort of by this time have kind of developed into a family unit with the remaining, or so it's the mother and the sister-in-law and the sister and Brett. It's just like three women and then Ezra and Semiramis. So they have kind of formed this family because the men are off fighting in the war, and the rest of the slaves at Mont Royal do decide to leave. So they leave. And remember though, and we're shown this in the series, there's really nowhere so they get freedom, but now they're sort of refugees. And that comes into play because Madeline ends up being kind of like, she runs like a refugee camp. She helps fund it, find supplies and food and everything to help mostly women and children, because also by this time in the North, I think just in the North. Yeah. So the North is like, great. Again, like nobody comes out squeaky clean here, but the North is, oh, great. We need soldiers. So now they're like all these freed slaves. They're like, come be in our army. So it's a bunch of women and children kind of all around that are left fending for themselves. So Madeline, again, she's the beautiful love interest of Ori. And so we see her help them. But like I said, so Ezra and Semiramis were slaves at Mont Royal, and the Maines even give them a plot of land so they can all like to stay at Mont Royal. They're like, you can have, which is nice, but it's like, it's kind of the least you could do. So they all kind of are living as a family. We see them. There's a scene towards the end. It's sad, but it's quite lovely as well that they're all having dinner together. Like they are all living as a family. And so there is a super unfortunate event towards the end. I won't spoil that in particular, but it has to do with like the dinner scene and what happens. I won't spoil that, but it's very unfortunate. But in the end, we do get a happy ending, because in the end, after all of that, like the ending scene, George, so everybody's back home. The war's over. The men are back home. And George reinvests in the cotton mill that they had started long ago. And there's a scene at the beginning, kind of when they first meet and talk about going into business together. George like rips, I think it's a $10 bill in half, like as a bet sort of. And then they each take the half of the $10 bill, which that was probably like, I don't know, kind of a lot of money, $10 back in the 1800s. Anyway, they've each kept the half in their wallets for over 20 years. And they proclaim that not only, I mean, we see a lot of up and downs within their friendship. They're on opposite sides of the war. And George especially really, I mean, obviously, he has a really hard time. He's like, my best friend, his family owns slaves. Like what, but we see somehow, like I said, somehow we are sympathetic to Ori Main because of Patrick Swayze. But they proclaim at this point, after all that they've been through, they are not only are they still best friends, they're family. And I know that sounds like kind of a throwaway thing, like very movie-esque. But this miniseries, that's really the heart of it. And the beauty of it is, especially men, like two military macho men. And we're shown like they love each other as brothers. Like they're not afraid to show it. And I don't know. I know there's other movies and stuff about like enduring friendships and stuff like that. But this is a really good example, and it's shown really well. Again, I think Patrick Swayze. It's Patrick Swayze. But the guy who plays George is pretty good too. And so that's the beauty of the series, is their enduring friendship, obviously. There's also, there's people stabbing each other in the back, metaphorically, I guess, and literally. We have love stories. There's a lot here. And yeah, I don't know. I just really love that we do get a happy ending. And the other thing that I wanted to, okay, those of you who know me both in real life and on the podcast, like, it's evident that humans are not my favorite species. I'm always like, oh, animals are better. I like 5 people. I mean, it's kind of a joke, but really, like, we are, myself included, we are just kind of a despicable species. And I could not help but notice as I'm rewatching this miniseries, made in the mid-'80s, so like almost 40 years ago, about a time period from the 1800s. So, from before the Civil War time to the time this miniseries was made, almost 40 years ago, to now in 2023. I just kept noticing all the themes that are shown about how wild it is that things just never seem to change in terms of us as a society. We see the same parallels again and again and again and again play out throughout history. I'm curious if those of you who've seen this or rewatch it and let me know. But it's just glaringly obvious. The attitudes towards war, our viewpoints about other people, how we put certain classes or, whatever it is, like however we define someone other than us, like just the viewpoints and how we're able to other them and therefore rationalize our treatment of someone that we consider other. Our seeming inability to learn from historical mistakes. Like, come on, society, get with the program. Greed for money and power. Boy, isn't that just the ultimate? But it's over and over again. Attempts to rationalize against progress. This is a big one for me too. Like what we're seeing in North and South is story. He tries to convince his father to modernize. And he says, like a quote from the series is, "We can't ignore progress or we'll be left behind." But we see over and over and over again that there's this fight against progress. There's also the ability to forego basic human decency and individual thought in the name of one's in-group. Does this sound familiar to anyone? And I'm putting myself in the average person just seeming to only care about the small portion of an issue that personally affects them, rather than maybe what we should be thinking about the greater good, or in some cases, like taking one for the team, so to speak. So in North and South, we see that Northerners both look down on the Southerners for owning slaves, but also the thing that they take most issue with is the monetary aspect, not the moral aspect. And we see this time and time again in history. So, for example, the slave labor laws, or the slave labor allows the Southerners to undercut prices that impacts the Northerners' ability to compete, even though they're exploiting immigrant labor, but they still pay them something. But thankfully, though, there are always people, like a small percentage of people in any society, thankfully, that small percentage of the population who really do stand up on moral grounds, like in this series, Virgilia does. Sorry, that's such a big fat bummer, but it's so glaring to me, and I'm curious I'm curious to hear what you all thought when you watched it. I guess just perhaps rewatching it now, especially, a lot of those things stand out. But let's turn that big fat bummer around by talking about how hot Patrick is. You guys knew that was coming, I'm sure. But I mean, for real though, we get a Southern accent from Patrick Swayze because he plays a South Carolinian. Is that how you say it? Now, Patrick is originally from Texas, but I don't think he has an accent. I don't notice him in other movies like he does. He seems to not have an accent. But Texas and South Carolina, even if he did have an accent, would be very different from a South Carolina accent. Anyway, we get a nice little accent from Patrick. We also get a ton of him. 12 90-minute episodes. So that's 12 mini movies within this miniseries of Patrick Swayze. Yes, please. It was just a delight. I mean, despite the content of the series, but Patrick was very nice to look at. Of course, we see him as the hero in many scenarios in this series. And he's even with the cane, he's got a limp, he's not fully able-bodied, but he's still able to be the hero. Of course, Patrick Swayze, you guys. Let's see. Oh, a super sensual love scene. Okay, so this is TV PG, and somehow Patrick is able to pull that off even in a PG version. I think I'm officially anointing this man as the king of love scenes. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'll put out that as a challenge. Is there another actor who's better at love scenes than Patrick Swayze. And he also does it, like, he'll kick some ass and then have the most amazing love scene. So, I mean, also just to jog your memory for the challenge that I just put out there, in addition to this one with Ori Main and Madeline, Dirty Dancing and Roadhouse, they're probably two of the best, and they're both set to Otis Redding music. I mean, come on. And then, of course, we just covered the clay pottery scene in Ghost. Patrick just oozes sex appeal and sensuality. Let me know. Do you agree? You should. If not, like I said, I challenge you. Who is better at sex scenes, love scenes, than Patrick Swayze? I buy it. I fully buy it. Whew. Oh, right. As I've talked about, but I do want to just, like, in conclusion, reiterate that the heart of this series, this sounds corny, but it's beautiful. Like, the beauty of George and Ori's enduring friendship. And there's a few quotes that I found particularly fitting. In addition to that, just in terms of what people might be feeling or dealing with now. George is saying this about Ori when he's struggling with their friendship. So I feel like that is happening a lot now too. We struggle with family and friends that seem to be just like on such a different level or different viewpoint on stuff going on in the world right now. So George says this about Ori. He says, "How can I oppose everything he stands for and still be his friend?" He does, we see. But yeah, I mean, that just, I found that really, I guess, prescient for the times that we're in right now. So I thought I would point that out. Additionally, Abraham Lincoln says, "Will the South be allowed to take by violence what they could not win in an election?" Also thought that was prescient for the times we're in right now. Okay, so there's some trivia that I thought you guys might be interested in. I always like the trivia. I hope you guys do too. Anyway, let me know. So, okay, so this first installment, 1985, apparently it remains the 7th highest rated miniseries in TV history. And remember, there were a lot of miniseries back in the day. I think Roots is probably up there, probably maybe the number one. I also loved this. To prepare for the role of George Hazard, James Reed spent several weeks at Patrick Swayze's horse ranch, where Swayze taught Reed how to ride. I thought that was awesome, just because Patrick can do everything, but also there's a lot of horse riding in this. Like, again, it's horse and buggies, and they're riding around like in battle on horses everywhere they go. They're traveling by horse. So I thought it was really interesting that James Reed didn't know how to ride a horse beforehand. So that was cool. And then I touched on this a little bit, but filming of this miniseries resulted in 4, count them, 4 marriages in real life amongst the cast and crew. So we already talked about James Reed and Wendy Kilborn, who I think they're still married today, but they played a married couple opposite each other, and they got married in 1988 and have 2 children. And I think they're still married today. Then we have Jonathan Frakes and Jeannie Francis, who had previously played opposite each other on a failed NBC soap opera called Bare Essence from 1983. But they kind of re-met on this set, and they also married in 1988. Leslie Ann Down, who plays the gorgeous Madeline, she married the assistant cameraman Don E. Fauntleroy in 1986. I would like to see what he looks like. I hope he's like a dreamy dude, because she's gorgeous. Now, I found this really interesting. So they met when they were both married to other people. Obviously, they obtained divorces to marry each other. And then Terry Garber married screenwriter Chris Hager, whom she met in 1985 when he worked as a grip on the set of North and South, Book 2. They had a daughter named Molly in 1986, but they did later divorce. I also think I touched on, so James Stewart, he plays a lawyer in this, and it was actually his final on-screen performance. Thought that was really interesting. Now, this is juicy, you guys. I don't know. It's gossipy, but okay. So according to Kirstie Alley in her memoir, oh, I just now realized that they're both deceased. That's so sad. Kirstie Alley's memoir, in it, she says that she and Patrick Swayze actually fell in love during the filming of this. But they were both married to other people and did not cheat on their spouses. So it's, yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I mean, it's sort of parallel to the situation that Rory and Madeline were in for such a long time, because they're in love for so long and then they do finally end up getting to be with each other. But obviously, I mean, that I guess I can buy it. And I also love that they did not cheat. They recognized there was a spark there, something there. And I don't know, however they went on to deal with it. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think it's true? What do you think? Please let me know. You can email me. You can comment on this episode on Facebook or on YouTube. Hey, speaking of, do you follow on Facebook? Did you subscribe to RetroMade on your podcast app? Let's see. Are you subscribed on YouTube? All of the things. All right. I think that about covers it. Have you guys seen North and South? Did you watch it in history class like I did? Let me know. If you haven't, it is quite good. Oh, one of the things I didn't tell you about that I forgot to mention, it's got an 8.0 on IMDb, both books. I think maybe only The Thing was higher. So this is the highest rated on IMDb that we've covered so far. It's super hard to get a high rating on, like to get an 8 is hard to come by on IMDb. I think The Thing had like an 8.1 or 8.2. But anyway, North and South has an 8.0. And it's got an outstanding cast. So I would recommend, even if you have seen it, if you haven't seen it in a while, it's just like a nice thing to kind of put on and get to see our dreamboat. Yeah. So request it from your library, people. And if you do, let me know. It is also, did I mention all of the guest stars? It's worth it for them alone. Like when I was like watching it, there's a really long opening credits and I just kept seeing all these names. I'm like, oh my God, that person, that person, that person. And so then it's kind of fun to look for them. Like you see, like, for example, I was like, oh, Morgan Fairchild. I'm curious to see who she is. Who's Elizabeth Taylor? All of these. And so it's fun when they pop up. Ooh, what's his face? Wayne Newton is a fun one as well. Like his character. It's very Wayne Newton. It's Wayne Newton is Wayne Newton. Anyway, you guys should request this from your library. And it also, like another selling point is that it does have like all of the makings of any good episodic drama. Even if you don't love a period piece, which I don't love a period piece, but this is good. Like I love there's, like I said, all of the things that a drama would have. It has all of that. Oh, and did I mention Patrick Swayze is in it? All right. Before you go pick your next episode to listen to, please give RetroMade a quick rating and review if you have a few minutes. I very much would appreciate it. So please do that. You guys, if, life in the Civil War era does seem pretty awful. So I suppose I'm happy to return to the present day craziness. Until next time, be kind, rewind.